What's up, dudes? We have a single exercise tutorial for you today. It is going to be the flat dumbbell chest flies. An amazing exercise to develop the chest, to isolate the chest, and one, me personally, I've used for many, many years. So I'm happy to do a tutorial on this, and hopefully you can benefit from some of the stuff that we're gonna be talking about today. We're gonna be going over the muscles involved, the function, some of the things to keep in mind, and some of the things not to do when you're performing this exercise. So we got to set up here. It's gonna be the flat bench with some dumbbells. And first things first, we just want to talk about the positioning of the joints and what to keep in mind before getting into it, before putting any weight on this exercise. That's usually a good place to start because you don't want to just start doing some weight without really thinking about or knowing or understanding where you're positioning and what you want to do in form and everything like that. So if you're familiar with the chest press, which is the compound movement for the chest, which is all about the retraction in the shoulder and depression. We did a video on the dumbbell flat bench press, so if you haven't seen that, check it out. But it is going to be very similar to that, where you do want to stabilize the shoulders. And to be able to stabilize the shoulders, it's very simple. You want to retract and depress. So it's going to be in this position. As you can tell, those back muscles are all very tight. So that is going to help keep those shoulders very stable, either in the pressing motion or in this case, the fly motion here. So still working on stabilizing the shoulders in both movements, because if they're not stable, all of a sudden you're not only going to possibly have injury in that joint, the shoulder joint, which is very common, especially in the gym, or you're just not gonna be able to target the chest. And that's what we're gonna talk about right now. Because let's say you're in that position and you have the dumbbells, your shoulders are rolled forward and maybe even shrugged up. You're gonna come down here in the stretch position and you'll immediately feel the stretch is gonna be coming right, and you'll probably see it too, is coming right in those front delts. It's all right there. That weight is gonna be pulling on those delts there. So right here, I don't feel anything in my chest. You can even kind of see it. This is why a lot of times I do it shirtless, so you can kind of see the muscles working. It's not really tense in the chest. So if you all of a sudden retract, depress, and now come here, you're not only getting a farther range of motion, it's taking that tension off the shoulder and placing it all on the chest, right here, those fibers of the chest. So that is something that you want to always do in any chest pressing or flying motions, is retract, depress, boom, it's gonna be right in the chest. Because if you look at the fibers of the chest, they attach all through here and they fan out and they kind of bunch up and connect right into the shoulder there. So if your shoulder's rolled forward, they're not gonna be tensed up right here, and they're not gonna be able to shorten and pull that shoulder joint in because it's already in that position. So if you pull the shoulder back and then go back like this, it's gonna pull and stretch those fibers out, and they're gonna in a prime position to shorten and bring that limb back into position there. So it's really gonna be targeting those chest muscles. So that's what you have to keep in mind in this exercise. So we're just gonna go through a couple repetitions really quick, which is here, shoulders retracted, depress, and gonna be bringing it back. Feel that nice deep stretch in the chest. It actually feels good just to leave it like this just for a split second. And then boom, shorten those fibers, bring it to the top position, just like so. Nice and wide, and back to the top. So nice, slow, controlled, no momentum. But one thing you might notice for some people, or maybe even yourself if you go a little too heavy in this exercise, is that you'll start to have some flexion and extension in the elbows. So that's one thing to keep in mind when performing this. It is an isolation, so we are trying to target just the motion really in the shoulder joint to have that chest, those fibers, those chest muscles, pull that weight into position each time you come from that nice wide stretched out position. But all of a sudden, if you go really heavy, your elbow starts to dip, and then now you're starting to put emphasis on the extension and flexion of the elbow too, which is still working the chest. You're still feeling chest, but it's no longer isolating that chest muscle or that movement. Now it's starting to become a compound movement. So you have to be very cautious of that, and that's one thing you'll see a lot, especially as the weight goes up, gets a little heavier, elbows will start dipping down. Still feels really good. It's still a great way to hit the chest, but it's no longer targeting the chest as much as if you do a very strict fly where your elbows can be slightly bent, but stationary. So they're not bending, they're not flexing and extending during the exercise. So that's something to be very cautious of. So start very light and see what it feels like when you do a really strict fly with that really slow motion, that really deep stretch, and then bringing it back to the top position. Now you'll hear this a lot as well, either in books, through other fitness influencers. Tension is very important, obviously. So once you get to the top position here, because the weight is placed right above you when you're lying down, there's not gonna be a lot of tension in the fibers anymore, in the chest. So to maintain tension, or time under tension is what they call it, you're gonna go from that deep stretch position, bring it to the top right before you get completely vertical. You'll stop where there's still some tension, and then you'll bring it back down. So there is that constant tension in the muscle from the deep stretch to that, shortened or contracted position there. It's gonna be a shorter range of motion, and that's why some people will say, well, that's why I like flies with the cables, because the tension is still there, because the tension is coming laterally rather than just gravity where it's vertical. But that being said, this is still a fantastic exercise to perform, because this is more about that really deep stretch where the muscle is forced to go from that stretch position to now pull and shorten to bring that weight up. And it's an amazing exercise, and one that can be done pretty much anywhere. And that's why dumbbells are so great. They are not only very mobile, but one thing you have to think about is, because they're independent from each other, it's gonna create a lot of instability, which is great because it's gonna force you to focus on the movement and really be in tune and in touch with how you're performing it. Because if you're relaxed, if you're not tensed up, if you're not focusing on the exercise, all of a sudden you're gonna feel it immediately. So it's almost kind of like if you're just not paying attention in a car and you're looking down your phone, or you're gonna drive off the road and crash. I mean, it's kind of like this. Like, you have to be attention. Things are happening, and if you stop paying attention, all of a sudden you're gonna lose control, right? So that is the flat bench dumbbell flies. Hopefully you guys got some good information out of this video. This was the one-on-one personal training with the buff dudes. And look for more in the future. And as always, stay buff. Yeah.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to show your support, please download our Buff app on Android and Apple. It's got hundreds of more tutorials, and we would love to see you in it. Oh yeah.